Welcome to another edition of the Rider Rumblings podcast. This is episode 175. I am Taylor Shire. He is Darrell Davis, and we're talking about a loss by the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Darrell, they fell to the Calgary Stampeders 32-15 on Saturday night in their second loss of the season and second loss to Calgary.
It doesn't happen very often, does it, Taylor? We've talked about a lot of victories and what they've done right, but twice this season they've been pushed around by the Calgary Stampeders. They promised that wouldn't happen. It did. They were a mess in defense because of a bunch of roster changes. Couldn't get their offense going. Trevor Harris, the quarterback, took 4 sacks. One of them was pretty hard. It just didn't look like the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and to me, it did not look at all like a first-place team, which was surprising, to be honest, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had sort of billed it as this West Division showdown. And the week prior, it was this Grey Cup preview with Saskatchewan and Hamilton didn't look like the team that I expected. A week prior, the Riders did. They played well in 2 phases, I guess, of the game. And yeah, against Calgary. Other than 2 drives, the offense was pretty lackluster. The defense, like you said, I don't think that was probably one of their worst performances of the year. Maybe the other one was against Calgary 6 weeks ago. And the special teams, Brett Lothar didn't have a good game. Dre McRae didn't have a good game. I mean, he was pulled or hurt. None of the 3 phases, in my opinion, played well on Saturday.
Yeah, which is really unusual. They've been winning games by winning all 3 phases, or at least 2 of the 3 phases of the game. And just nothing looked good. Calgary, what an impressive team. You keep thinking Calgary's basically replaced its entire starting defense. All 12 starters are basically new. I know some of them have played before, but to rebuild it and be that effective, and some of the pass rush was just phenomenal. Made Saskatchewan's offensive line, which has been really dependable all season, made them look bad. They got shoved around. They got guys going right through seams, untouched. It was really different than what they've done all year. And offensively, it seemed like the Roughriders obviously too much pressure, and defensively they didn't get anything on. But they made some last second changes, right? Losing Sales at last minute, a game time decision. He couldn't play, so they moved Lacombo from safety over to corner, put Jackson Ford in at safety, and the team never seemed to really adjust. Lacombo got hurt very early in the game, so they put Exume in to back him up. There was a lot of shuffling around from a team that had been pretty stable on defense and been really effective. Hadn't allowed a touchdown in 2 straight games, but Calgary just found the weaknesses. And it seems like Dave Dickinson, the Calgary head coach, knows pretty well what Corey Mason, Mark Mueller are going to do because he's coached with them before. And that's just speculation because they all kind of study each other. But it seems like Dave Dickinson really knows how to game plan for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yeah, and I asked Trevor after the game, was it execution? Was it game plan? Could you have done something more to game plan against the Calgary defense? And he said, a little bit of both, obviously, but I think it came down to execution. Keyshawn Johnson drops an easy touchdown catch. Obviously, missed field goal maybe played into it a little bit, but in the second half, they just weren't executing. I think the play calls were there, but they just weren't executing. They, for whatever reason, can't run against Calgary. I think that's a credit to Calgary's strong defense. They kept trying to run the ball, and I think that was sort of maybe not as effective as they would have liked, and I think they should have gone away from that. And just maybe set up some more short passes, especially with how strong Calgary's defensive line played. A few more of those dink and dunk passes probably would have been more effective on either side of the ball. I know they did try it a little bit, on some of those plays, but to me, there wasn't enough of that in the second half.
No, you're right. They did stick with the run a long time because probably they were criticized for getting away from the run the first time through. And A.J. Ouellette had a better game, but it wasn't outstanding. It didn't scare the Stampeders enough to think that Saskatchewan would now be a one faceted offense, right? They still tried to diversify a little bit, but it just wasn't. You're right. The drop pass by Keyshawn Johnson in the first quarter hurt them. Subsequently, they missed the field goal by Brett Lothar, and it seemed to really take away a lot of their momentum. They got it back. They played one half of a good quarter. In the second one, Trevor Harris had some rhythm going. It seemed like they were really on track and took a 15-14 lead. But that second half, the Riders didn't score a point. Just amazing for the team that's been, one of the highest scoring teams in the league to not be able to score a point in the second half was just astounding.
Mm-hmm. So 8-2, is Saskatchewan. 7-3 is Calgary. Who's better though?
I saw that
Right?
in your story. That's
The
good
West
question.
Division. That's sort of what I wrote about in my
Yeah.
10 thoughts. At this point, you can't. If you're doing a power rankings, you can't say that Calgary's not the best team in the league right now.
You're right. And Calgary has 5 victories against probably the 2 best teams in the West, right? They've swept the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which is really strange scheduling that they've played and swept 3 games against Winnipeg already. Winnipeg's probably the 3rd best team in the West, and they've played and swept the 2-game set against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So, yes, technically, I know the Roughriders are atop the standings, but Calgary has beaten all the major contenders for the Western team. So I would say, yeah, they're the best team in the West, that's for sure. And it still amazes me. I know that they had a backup quarterback, and one game was in the rain, but they've lost twice to the Ottawa Red Blacks, who seem to be the weakest team in the Canadian Football League. So strange things happen in this league, and I don't think we would have predicted a 32-15 lopsided victory by the Stampeders on Saturday night.
No, and I think heading into the season, nobody predicted Calgary to even get to 7 wins on the year. I mean, a lot of people would have had them below 500 and not playing well, but maybe that was judging this team on who they were last year.
Yeah.
Everybody sort of, was basing their projections on what Calgary did last year. They didn't look good. They looked like they were going to be the worst team again in the West coming into this season. But yeah, as you said, an entirely new defense. And I really think a quarterback does a lot of things for a club. And Vernon Adams is the straw that stirs their drink, if you will. He didn't have his best game, but he's confident. He gets the job done. And to have a running back like Dedrick Mills, who broke how many tackles on Saturday, I think having those two things, those two things, and overall a strong defense that's fully rebuilt, I think this team has surprised a lot of people, me included.
Yeah, I talked to Mike Rose, Riders defensive tackle, last week, and asked him a little bit about Calgary, and he said they got the quarterback they wanted. So you're right. Vernon Adams Jr. makes a huge difference to them, and obviously a good job of rebuilding the defense. But we weren't expecting the Stampeders to be this strong. Even they might have surprised themselves how well they're playing. But they're missing 2 of their starting receivers last night, and they still have a decent passing game. Dedrick Mills played really well. They kept the vaunted Saskatchewan pass rush at bay, even though Saskatchewan continued to try with 5 and 6 pass rushers. But it was just a totally unexpected result, and I guess we've seen them be dominated before by Calgary, so I guess that's not as surprising. But to me, it was surprising.
Mm-hmm. So now the Riders get set to take on Winnipeg for the first time this season. And again, I think it's a favorable schedule, like how it's been laid out for the Riders this year. There's been no short turnarounds, not a lot of Thursday games. But the fact that they've already wrapped up their season series against Calgary, and now and Calgary has wrapped up their season series against Winnipeg, and now the Riders have Winnipeg 3 times in the second half, I think is unique. But yeah, Labor Day and Banjo Bowl, and then they'll play again later in the season.
Only in the CFL, that schedule maker.
Right?
It still astounds me how they do that. You're right. But this is the heart of the season coming up with the Labor Day Classic and the Banjo Bowl back-to-back, yes. And want to see how they compare against Winnipeg, because Winnipeg is the team that consistently knocks the Rough Riders out of the playoffs. So how do they compare against that team? Winnipeg's not the same overpowering squad it used to be. They've had injuries. Zach Caleros is getting a little older and getting hurt. They're missing a lot of players. It's a bit of a turnover. So once again, game after game, we're excited about what could happen. What are we going to see? But this, you talked about this section of the schedule. This was like a 5-6 game part where we thought this is what's going to tell us if the Rough Riders are any good, right? Montreal, Hamilton, Calgary, Winnipeg back-to-back, Montreal again. They're 2-1 right now in that section. So if they come out of it 4-2, 3-3, that's not bad. They kind of hold on to their placings and still prove that they're a decent football team. So this is the segment that's really exciting to watch.
Yeah, Winnipeg not as good as they have been, but they're still finding a way to win. They've won 3 of their last 4. They're 6-4. I think the Riders, again, we talk about these statement games. I think this upcoming game and even the rematch will be a good chance to say, okay, maybe we had a bad couple of games against Calgary, but we are still a very strong team and we are contenders for the West Division title. On the flip side, if they drop both of these games, then the whole West Division playoff race is murky. Calgary, on the other hand, plays Edmonton twice, and Edmonton is sort of the resurgent team.
Mm-hmm. And they're not out of contention.
They're
either,
4-6. So if they find a way to win both, I think if we see two splits, it's sort of whatever. There's not much to write. Both teams or the standings will sort of remain as they are. But if one team, any one of those four teams, can manage to pull off a split, I think it sort of changes the dynamic of the playoff race in the second half.
Oh yeah, a 2-game sweep would really be important right now, because not only that, you're knocking back not only you're getting the points in the standings, you're knocking back a contender too. So you're right. This is when we really get interested. The Riders sold out their last game. They're going to sell out the Labor Day Classic. So people are getting interested again. And I'm curious too how they're going to perform. I want to see how they match up against Winnipeg. Somebody's going to have to knock out Calgary, it looks like, for the Rough Riders to get somewhere. So if they could stay in first place, get that bye, then hope Winnipeg can beat Calgary. They might have a better chance, because Calgary is kind of their kryptonite this year. It's a red-clad kryptonite, right? So I think the Rough Riders would love to get this back-to-back, but it's a pretty tough series to sweep.
Yeah, Saskatchewan already wrapped up against Calgary, but there will be another meeting in the playoffs, in my opinion. I don't see how these two teams aren't meeting in the West Final. Where that will be is obviously to be determined. But yeah, then you enter Winnipeg into the equation. I think they will finish in third. And I think also there will be a crossover based on how this West Division is shaping up. I don't think Toronto and Ottawa will have a better record than either one of BC or Edmonton. Edmonton, I think, is sort of this resurgent team, as I said. So I think that'll be sort of the battle for fourth place as the season goes along, is between BC and Edmonton, who will then probably head east for the crossover. And yeah, so then I think that leaves Winnipeg traveling to the West Division semifinal, but where that will be is to be determined.
Okay. However, Toronto just beat BC, which is a surprise, right? So I'm done predicting. I'm not guessing who's going to beat anybody. I thought Calgary was going to be the last place team in the West this year, so I'm not picking these anymore. So don't count on me. We'll see how it goes.
But there is, I guess, statistically or mathematically, whatever you want, there's a good chance that a crossover could happen, and it's basically how
it's looking that way. Yes, absolutely, it is. The West is better because the West has won 9 of the last 9 straight games, I think, against Eastern teams now. So and now has a huge advantage, like 17-8 or something like that in the crossover games. So in the crossover divisional games. So the West is starting to prove its superiority again, but. I don't know. Weird things happen.
Yeah, who knows?
Ottawa beat Calgary twice, right? So who knows?
Yeah. And even after the game, Corey Mace said this Labor Day game, the records don't matter. This is just
throw
this
them out
unique.
The window,
yeah, throw the records out the window. Winnipeg and Saskatchewan, anytime they play in the Labor Day Classic, it doesn't matter who's the better team at that point in the season. It's a battle, and it's a clean game. And as the Riders say, they just want to go 1-0 this week. It doesn't matter about what their record is coming in, what the record will be next week. We want to go 1-0 this week.
They want to keep getting better too. Notice what's that sign that they're trying to get better, climb the ladder, kind of. They got ridiculed a little bit by the Stampeders after we were going and then gave the thumbs down stuff. So there's a little taunting going back and forth. So having these teams meet again in the playoffs might be kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm. So a couple of notes, I guess, on special teams we haven't talked about. Brett Lawther obviously didn't have a good game, but he was 0 for 1, right? So
he made a convert, though.
He made a convert. How do we judge Brett on his? He was just limited to one. I don't want to necessarily write him off, and a lot of people will be asking for a change at kicker. They have signed a rookie in Campbell Fair, who has never kicked at a CFL game but did look good in practice. So do you make the move this week heading into the Labor Day game to get a new kicker, or do you give Brett another week and see how he does in the Labor Day game? He's had some good Labor Days over his career. I think you give Brett another shot. This is sort of not his last chance necessarily, because you could very well have to come back to him later. But I think you give him the Labor Day game. If he has a good performance, you continue to ride with him. If you maybe choose to go with Campbell Fair, then I think that sort of throws this distraction, this not necessarily we're giving up on Brett, but I don't necessarily think it's fair to him if you were to start the rookie and bench Lothar in the Labor Day game. I think you give him one more chance at home to kick. And if he plays well, continue to ride him. If he doesn't, then you can make the switch for the Banjo Bowl.
He missed from 28 yards back-to-back games. To me, those are gimmies. It's like, Taylor, you got that 18-inch putt, go ahead and take it, right? Brett, 28 yards, CFL kicker, you got to make that, right? Just pick it up and let's move on. So to me, that's dangerous. When I talked to Jeremy O'Day, the general manager last week, he was saying the same. Brett knows what our expectations are of him. He's our most accurate kicker ever in the history of the franchise, but he's not doing what we expect him to do. So it might be time to make a change. They have missed the deadline for cutting veterans. So whoever, I don't think they're that ruthless, but if they cut a veteran now, they have to pay the rest of his salary, cut a veteran like Brett Lothar. So they missed that deadline. So there isn't a hurry to do it. If I were to guess, though, we've been wrong on a lot of things on this, but once in a while, I think that they're making a move. By the time this plays, when people are watching it, we're recording it right on Sunday after the Riders lost on Saturday. It could change. They might commit to Brett Lothar and say, yeah, he's playing. But right now, as I view it, Taylor, I would say make that move, and it would also shake up. We all like Brett Lothar. We've never said anything other than what a great person he is. But it's professional sports, and this football team, after that game, might even need a shakeup. And, sometimes people get scapegoated, but he hasn't been reliable. And if they can't rely on him, then you may as well not have him. You've got to have somebody you can trust, and at the moment, they can't trust him.
Yeah, and I said this several weeks ago when I was asked. I said, give him till Labor Day. Let him try to figure it out. He's always had sort of a good second half of the season. Even if he struggled in the first half. Same thing happened last year. He finished the year after sort of this point in the season, almost flawless. So give him another chance, stick with him, and if it doesn't pan out in the Labor Day Classic, then yes, make the move. They do have Campbell Fair in the roster, and I don't think they would cut Brett. I think they would just maybe place him.
I think you'd have to. I don't think you can keep him around.
I think he's a good enough teammate and a good enough guy and a good insurance policy that you keep him around.
Wow, but that's humiliating, isn't it?
I think Brett. I don't think Brett's ego would get in the way of that.
Yeah, probably not. But I think it still humiliates a guy to have him on the practice roster when maybe they say he's hurt or something and put him on
that. I would say 1 game injured list.
Perhaps say he pulled something last game, right? But I think keeping.
No, I don't necessarily think you have to lie. I think you it's a load management type of thing. If you want to, that's what they're going to say on the injured list. Like when Mitch Picton's a healthy scratch and it's listed load management. Well, that's the opposite of what it is. But
yeah. Mm-hmm. I think to keep him around, if they were to replace him, I think that find another kicker to come in on the practice roster if Campbell Fair is no good. But I don't think you can keep a veteran like Brett Lothar around on the practice roster. I would think that you have to move on. NFL teams do that all the time. CFL teams are reluctant to do it, but you got to sweep that guy aside and move on. And that way, if you have Brett Lothar sitting on the practice roster and you're going with Campbell Fair, he's got the veteran looking over his shoulder. And I think what you have to do as a coach is say, you're our guy. We've moved everything out of the way. We have faith in you because you've earned it. Show us that you keep showing us over and over again that you're the guy. And I just think that's the way the move would have to be made, Taylor.
Yeah, I disagree, and I don't think a Grey Cup winning team is going to have a rookie kicker without some veteran backup. And if Campbell Fair needs to not necessarily ask Brett for tips, but just sort of have this guy in his corner who's been there, who's kicked big kicks, and to say, whether to calm him down, whatever you want to say a veteran can do to a rookie. But I think, if they do make a move, that they'll keep Brett around. They're not going to punt a guy to the curb who's been not only a loyal person to the team and to the community and whatnot. I think that does matter. I think this culture and this family and I think that does matter. I don't think it comes down to salary. I don't think it comes down to roster space. I think it comes down to loyalty and culture and family, and that's why I think they'll keep Brett. And I think they'll also probably give him the option, right? If he thinks that it's humiliating to be benched and he wants to be cut, then sure, he can show himself the door. But I don't think this team will cut him outright.
Okay. Well,
we'll see.
Different approaches, and we'll see what. Maybe nothing will be done, right? So
exactly. Maybe he'll. Yeah, like I said,
we're early in the week on this one, so we'll see where it goes, and we'll see who's kicking on Sunday.
Yeah, the Riders will return to practice Wednesday, so some of you will be watching this as they return to practice, but they have a couple of days before to sort of speculate and whatnot. And another potential, I don't want to go too early on this, but Mario Alford is nearing a return, and he could spark the special teams unit as Dre McRae, I believe, got hurt in that game and was replaced by Dante Meyer. So could be another special teams move this week. We'll have to see.
Yeah, they're still pretty good on the coverage teams, but they haven't been getting any yards since Dre McRae took over for injured Mario Alford. Alford had been outstanding and come back to his all-star form, so not having him has hurt them. McRae, a couple of fumbles, almost cost them. He even was a little wobbly catching some balls on Saturday. So, yeah, I think they're looking forward to making that move. Dre McRae had such a good preseason. We thought, oh, yeah, he's the guy. But during the regular season hasn't quite been the same. I do like the way he goes straight forward, which is great for a returner. But they need to get a spark from that special teams. Whether it's kicking, whether it's returning, they need to get something going again because it's going to help the Riders if they ever have a flatter performance like they had against Calgary.
Well, we'll see what they do. The Green and White will return to practice on Wednesday ahead of the Labor Day Classic, which, as always, should be a good one. Darrell, thanks as always for joining the podcast, and have a good week.
Thanks, Taylor. You too.